edge of my seat. So welcome to the Conscious Union with God class. Great to see you here. Really lovely. Great chapter this time too that we use. The mission of the Christ. The mission of the Savior. And so today there's a lot to look at again, and I hope that you read or listened to the specific chapter from the book Conscious Union with God by Goldsmith. So before we dive into anything, it's good to realize that we're actually in a meditation. You can actually call this a meditation. So that means that we take time to come to the place where we actually communicate, and so what we do with that is we relax and we let go of ideas that we had before, or that we walked in with. So we let all of that go, and that is really the total help for you to enter into the present moment with me. And to see that where two or more are gathered in my name, Jesus said, I will be there. So the presence of Jesus is with us. The Christ, of course, is with us. And so that's something that you have to relax into. So that's really what we're doing right now. So it might help to just breathe and relax and sit back or sit on the edge of your seat, whatever is working for you. It really doesn't matter. And so sinking deeper, in fact, into your consciousness and seeing that there is where the silence is. So that you will see that you actually pass by on your thoughts. You're not engaging in them, in order to leave yourself some rest, and some silence and some stillness. So the thoughts are allowed to come up, but you're actually not going to do anything with it. That's basically the way to do it. And that takes practice, yes, of course. So we're practicing that right now. So let go of your ideas. Look at where your thoughts are, so to speak. Take another look at that. And let them go. Just let them go. Let that pass by, like the clouds in the sky, and see that you don't need them to function in this moment, and that our coming together will give you enough, nurturing, enough replenishing, and that you really don't need your thoughts for that. So your thoughts are basically always exhausting you more than anything, and you know it. Like how many circles you have, walked with your thoughts. How many times you think the same thing? It's unbelievable, and you still take it serious. That's all unbelievable too. So this moment then is really to cut loose from that, to really take some real distance from your earthly activities, so that there will be space to receive something new, something from a different nature, something that has real energy, that has real life to it, and basically is what you are. So it's a creative power that is running through you. It's a creative power that created you. So that's also what you are. You're the effect of that. You're the effect of that. Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, just breathe, just, sigh and cry. Whatever you need to do to release that what you were holding on to. Because all of that is gone, literally, in this moment. All of that is gone. It has no link to this moment whatsoever. It is all over. It's all past. So we don't bring that into this moment again. No, this moment we're going to leave that open to fully experience what has been given in this moment. See, and that is a gift. It's really not something I can come up with or anything. No, it's like literally it's going to be given to us, and it will, take shape if necessary, but it will at least be present with us and help us. And help us to be free of, say, of the worldly laws or of ideas that you hold, of concerns that you carry with you. You will be free of that just for this moment. And you can pick it up any time again, but you probably don't want it. So in this mission of the Savior chapter 10, was it? Yeah, chapter 10 from the book Conscious Union of God. Jill steps in with the idea of, so you want something from your spiritual development. You actually want to get something from that, and that is like he describes it like in the time of Jesus, that the people that were around him, everything went so great, they totally believed in him. They had so much faith in him up to a certain point. And so they loved the idea of freedom. They loved the idea of, abundance. They loved the idea of total power. And they loved all these ideas in their own context. So, and that's really great that Joel starts this way, because it's like, you actually have to take a look at that for yourself. Like, why am I doing this? Well, maybe because I didn't have a choice. I was so, stuck in my humanhood, so to speak, that I really needed something else to come to me. Or I was so afraid that I needed to find something else to live for, because it was contracting me and limiting me in every step that I took. So it's good to think about, why did you actually start this? What is the story behind that? What was that again? What happened that I started to practice this? Because it's pretty amazing that you do this. But like I said, the people around Jesus in the time, they were very excited about everything. Like, if you see how they responded, basically like a couple of days before his crucifixion, it was like, no, he was carried like a king. They loved it, what he was doing. But then he shared something that really was not very popular. And that was the idea of, my kingdom is not of this world. Like the freedom I'm talking about, and the meat that I'm talking about, the wine and all of that, the water I'm talking about, has nothing to do with this place whatsoever. And so up to that point, he was almost like a promised king, but now suddenly he fell off his pedestal in the eyes of the people that were around him. And he was not that popular anymore, and they started to do something else with him instead of praising him up to the king, like they thought like, okay, well, maybe he can cut some taxes, or maybe he can even throw Caesar off his throne, and he might sit there, he might become our king, it would be wonderful. So it would all be working out in the end for us. And all that did not happen. Like, no, it was a total disaster for them in their experience of this whole thing. And they got aggressive, literally. So this is pretty wild, it's like, it's good to realize why you're doing this. So not to gain any kind of, hope in your humanhood. Really not. Even though it might look like that, but it is not. That's not the reason why you do this. And if you expect that to come to you after your pursuit of this, so to speak, then you will be disappointed. See, and basically in your transformation, in you see all your ideas, turning to dust. Like, literally, it's not working out the way that you think it should be working out. And that is perfectly all right, because it's not your plan at all. No, this is going to be given to you in the, say, in the light of heaven and not in the light of the world. So all the ideas of success that you carried with you for a long time, they turn to dust. Literally, there's nothing left of it in the end. So and that is great if you feel the relief of not having to pursue that anymore. But it can also feel like you miss out on something for a moment because you don't necessarily have immediately a different, say, alternative. You don't have a different experience yet of what might come. So to stay motivated in your spiritual practice then is really a challenge in a certain sense, because even though you might not have great experiences, you know it's the best for you, like you know it's relating to the truth of you. So that's why it would be totally helpful for yourself to do it, and it would be very loving too. But it does not always look that way. It doesn't always feel that way. So and that is totally all right if you be patient with yourself. Anyway, so I'll read some of the, say, the beginning paragraphs. Yeah, for instance, this. So naturally, their expectancy was that when the Messiah came, he would certainly dethrone Caesar and give him the Holy Land in which to live as free people. Political freedom probably was uppermost in their minds because their Palestine would become a political entity, free of the domination of Rome, and they would be a free people economically, politically, and nationally. Well, imagine that. Imagine that in your country. So, of course, people would love to follow him. And you see, like, we're here with, maybe with the 11 of us. Like, we're here with the 11 of us, basically, looking at the good news. And so it's not that it's so packed that everyone wants to hear this. See, that's pretty amazing, too, because this is actually constructive realization connected to your true identity. And that's not so popular because that doesn't pay in the world. Like it doesn't pay, literally. It is not for that it is. Like it's not for the human successes that we think are successes. Not at all. But we'll come back to that later too. So because it doesn't mean that you live in poverty all the time. Like Joel mentions this cup of milk and a couple of grains of rice. It's not that we live like that either. That doesn't need to be like that. But it's all cut to size, literally exactly right for your transformation. It's all a great setup. Okay, so then he talks about, on page 144, about the human need drives people to Christ. Our spiritual ministry of today is similar in the sense that people who turn to it are for the most part seeking relief from some kind of human bondage. If we were to tell our patients and students, let's see if we can demonstrate a better home for you, or a better life, or a better job, a better wife or husband, or better children, or a bigger income, or perhaps establish a colony somewhere to give us freedom from the atomic bomb, or a huge army to be sure that the communists don't gain control of the world. It would not be difficult to attract multitudes. So that is one of Jill's examples, which is really something. So the reason why you start doing this is basically always because something happened, like something in the world, maybe a relationship broke, or you really got like stuck in your humanhood, so to speak. There was not the success that you hoped for. There was a disappointment. And suddenly one day that you didn't know what to do with yourself, you started to pick up a book and start reading, or somebody spoke to you about, say, oh, read some of this, or come to the meeting with me. It's really great. You hear something else. And then it started, then your spiritual path started. And if you look back, like if I look back, it's like it was always a bit there in my life that I was interested in it. It's like I read certain books and suddenly I came with certain people in connection. Like one thing lead to the other. It was also like that. And that dominated actually my whole life. I don't know how that is for you, but if you look back, it's like pretty amazing that it was always there. And as a kid even, you were looking for a way to be free in your playing and having a spacious surrounding, safe surrounding where you can be yourself. So that is continuing, and then when you grow up as an adult and suddenly you have your dream that you hope for breaks a little bit, falls apart, then you suddenly start to think about deeper things. Like mostly people have that, say, after 28 or so, or maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit later, that you start to think like, well, why is this not working? It's like I do everything that I can to make this work, and it doesn't bring me what I was looking for. I was looking for my happiness in it, and it just doesn't seem to work this way. So, and then Joel starts also to talk about perseverance, in fact. It's like, are you going to continue with this on this path? Are you going to continue with it, or is it so that you receive like the pain relief that you were looking for, and then you're okay? You're okay. You don't want to go any further. You leave it like that. So that happens a lot too. Joel says in this book, it's like it happens a lot too, that you don't want to pursue any more spiritual goals because you got what you wanted, and you can't believe. There's also a human like disability, so to speak. You can't believe that there is more. Like, okay, that was just one thing that you asked for, and that was revealed to you. You suddenly discovered that you didn't have to have that pain anymore. You let it go, and something shifted and changed. But then you cannot imagine that there is more, that you can ask for more, for a deeper sense of happiness, or letting go of even more. This takes place during your spiritual development. It's inevitable. But if you stop at a certain point, you see, and then you miss it. It's really like, no, you will return to it anyway, because it is like things get dark when you don't practice this way or are inspired to do things. So it's not just by some kind of, say, success that you experience that you stop. You probably want to go further. But it takes perseverance, is what Joel says here in the text too. It's like that takes a moment to feel the inspiration to say, ask for more, in fact, for giving, persevering on this path. Because basically you come in touch, and we read that later in the chapter. Joel says this here, is like, actually you come in touch with, say, true pleasures. You have the pleasures as a human being, what we call pleasures, but there is always a price tag on it. You always have to pay a price for it. It's never completely free as a gift to you. So, and then with spiritual, say, happiness, it is totally different, because it's literally not only setting you free, but also the ones that you are with. Like suddenly you can share that, and that makes it so great. And there's no loss or no say obligations or sacrifice connected to it whatsoever. That makes it real in that sense. It makes it real progress for yourself to have experiences like that. And progress in the sense of returning back to who you really are. So it's almost always like the other way around. It is not. that you achieve something. It's like, no, it's more like you stop doing something and suddenly you see that has, alleviates, that literally gives you more space and more light in your being. So you become lighter and lighter in that sense, in your expression of yourself. Let's see how Joel is saying this. If the world, this is on page 146, the spiritual life, a joyous life, if the world but knew it, there are pleasures in the spiritual realm that far transcend anything in the human pleasures, joys and harmonies. There are friendships that transcend any type of human relationship that has ever been known. It is worthwhile to stick to this path. It is worthwhile to set sail for uncharted seas, for the wide horizon, for the places that the average human being will never find. Those things for which we will not give up material comforts, for which we will not surrender the human dependence on and attachment for family life. You will not see it when you hold on to these ideas. See, and that's nicely said too. It's like set sail for uncharted seas, for the wide horizons, for the places that the average human beings will never find, for those things for which we will not give up material comforts. Like, you have no idea what you miss in that sense if you stay with your human limitation. See, and that's always true. But it goes back even to the relationships and the way that you communicate with one another. So we talk about this a lot. It's like, forgiveness is such an incredible gift that you can practice here. Like in seeing someone for who he is instead of the limitations that you projected on him. So that is a total gift, to see that in your release of your ideas, suddenly you actually are able to meet someone, to really come in communication with someone. See, and you only have to experience that once, and you are motivated to do that, to keep repeating that, or to keep practicing that. And that is the same with your say, spiritual joys and pleasures. Like, it just is an invitation to ask for more, because there is always more. And not stick with what you are familiar with, but asking for more. Like literally going out on the seas that you were never on, like the wide horizon that you enter into, that you go after, you go and discover. So in that sense, it is an adventurous activity that we're employing. It is adventurous because you go beyond your limitations, you go beyond your ideas about what is meant for you or what belongs to you. Now it's like, you have no idea what that is, and by your openness you can discover more. So that's really, really beautifully said here by Joel. Oh yeah, here's the rice and the milk. To live the spiritual life does not mean to become sanctimonious, and it does not mean to live on a daily ration of a cup of milk and a few grains of rice. On the contrary, I have found, not only with myself, but with many others who have touched this higher consciousness, that they enjoy the choice things of life, interesting places, stimulating companionship, well-prepared food, and attractively furnished homes. The truth is that an awareness of the spiritual presence and power attracts the higher things, and yet does not make one attached to them or enslaved by them. See, and that is, in fact, has everything to do with not so much with the material part behind it, or the material part that you see, but it has more to do with you. How am I, say, open to receive this for myself? Or do I think it needs to look a certain way in order to be spiritual? Like, well, that's really good to take a look at too, because you might have ideas about spirituality that are literally limiting you to be yourself or to discover other things for yourself that are really enriching your experience, you know. And that it's not that you have to look for beautiful furnished homes or anything like that. It has nothing to do with the form. It is just, are you allowing yourself to feel what comes up, no matter where you are? That if you see something of beauty, that you can really enjoy it, that you just give that to yourself, in fact. So these things are important. That's also part of waking up, that you see, oh my God, I would never have given myself that space before, and now I do that. I'm so happy that I give myself the space to wear suddenly beautiful homes or beautiful clothes. Sorry, I was distracted. That I suddenly can wear beautiful clothes, or buying a nice bright red shirt, or whatever it is, you know. So all these things, so you can say like, okay, taking care of myself is part of that too. Allow that to if you feel that you want to do that, give that some space. Allow that to happen too. In other words, it's more about not limiting yourself because of your idea of what spirituality is. You know, that is also a relief. You don't have to do that. You don't have to limit yourself. Never. So then still you can be completely perseverant to the truth and pursue that continuously. It doesn't take it away. This is about the Messiah. What do you expect and what do you want from your Messiah? Remember, this is a question that Joel poses, remember that your Messiah is the Christ of your own being. The question for you to decide is whether or not you have arrived at the point where you can reject the temptation to demonstrate persons and things and turn to Christ, to the kingdom within, and attain your spiritual freedom. In turning to the spiritual life, you are seeking this inner kingdom, this Christ within, this divine presence, a spiritual freedom, which means freedom from material laws, from material activity, from material powers. Whether the power is one of infection or contagion, or of stars, or anything that claims to have power. There's a reason why you are on this path. Something has drawn you to this way of life, to this teaching. Something has drawn you to the reading of this book. You have not been drawn because of your acquaintance or friendship with me, or because of any great reputation I have as a writer. No, it is not for any of those reasons. It is because an indefinable something, an invisible communion that has brought you here. See, and that is, I love that, like the invisible communion, like you're drawn to certain connections, to certain places, to certain meetings, like you're here not just by accident at all. Like, no, you're drawn to it. You feel that inspiration, and it is here for you, you know, to literally, you can't stop yourself from doing it. And that's the same with the books that you have started reading and with the spiritual path you're on. Like, you were drawn to it. It went through everything, all your ideas and, say, targets that you wanted to achieve. Suddenly this crosses whoosh, just like that, like it crosses your path, and you're drawn to it and you you can resist it, but it really doesn't make a lot of sense to do so. So that's great that Joel mentions this here too. See, these are all aspects of your spiritual development, of your spiritual path. You know, this is one of them too. Why are you reading certain books? There's a reason for it. Why are you in this class? There's a reason for it. You're definitely recognizing something that you are part of. Absolutely. So that's great to have that in your awareness. Saying you can trust that too. You can trust your drawnness to it, to something. So because see, in your thinking, you can see that too. I saw it this afternoon by myself too. It's like in your thinking, you can also not follow up on these, say, impulses or magnetism. You can also not answer to it. But then it's like suddenly there's an opportunity just disappearing, just like that. It just doesn't happen then. So if you right away, without resistance, just step into it, you see that things flow really easy and they expand and they come to life and they grow literally. You literally have stepped into a creative principle. See, but when there's you controlling it and not giving in to these impulses, to these say experiences of magnetism to something, then you get yourself out of that flow all the time. So that's a bit of it's a very subtle thing because it has to do with your ideas. That's basically what I wanted to say. It's like there's a control mechanism controlling that for you. That's you trying to control your path, and that's just not helpful. So like nothing is lost by letting that go, and actually you come easier into a spiritual flow with the impulses that you get. You can really trust them. You can really trust them, and that's really beautiful. I saw that today again. It's like, oh, that's so great. I could now not have done this, but I do it, and then something comes from that, like something of joy comes to me by just pursuing that. It is what Master Christ Jesus referred to when he said, "My sheep hear my voice." It is what the Hindu mystic means when he looks at a person with this recognition. You are my student, and the student looks up at him and replies, I've been looking for you for years. That's it. Oh, this is nice too. So I'll read the next paragraph too, because it's really beautiful, and I recognize this too in the ways that we come together. Did you ever stop to think that the Song of Solomon and other spiritual messages are written in the language of love, because the whole relationship of teacher and student is a relationship of love? Such a sacred relationship cannot and does not come through the reasoning mind. No, when you find the teacher or teaching that is really yours, you recognize it at once, perhaps because of your inner communion. At any rate, it is a recognition, almost like meeting a person for the first time, looking him in the eyes and saying, I think that we're going to be friends forever. It is a communion on an inner level. See, and this is really what I recognize for myself too in the meetings that we have. It's like it's a love relationship in the sense that we are, see, there's no obligation to it, and it only lives by the freedom of it, and it asks for no sacrifice whatsoever. So that's why it can be free to be itself and can develop, and it's a place where something can be received because it is not, say, cross-lined by any kind of limitation. So I love the reference to this in this text. Oh yeah, and then we're going over to the next idea that's in the chapter. So that's the idea of the central office. I really love that too. So Joel says, like, no, you shouldn't be in the controlling mode. Like, you have a great central office that you can ask for what to do or where to go. And I always called it for myself like my flight center that I have to connect with. Well, when am I starting to move? When I'm going to fly? It's like I always ask for permission first. So it's really like that too. It's like the grand office. Okay, you get the call. Yeah, okay, it's going to happen. You know, it's really fun to look at it that way. And it's also good to be reminded of that you can ask for, okay, when am I supposed to do this? And then you'll get an answer at a certain point. Like literally the call is taking place. It's a lovely way to describe it and to use it as a practical means. And referring to the inner communion, to our inner center that we carry with us, that is just with us because it is there for a reason. We can make use of it. So see, there's so much you don't have to figure out for yourself. Is this the right time for it? Should I be doing this? What should I say? What should I do? Like all these things are going to be shared with you, are going to be, say, delivered to you in the right time. So you don't have to prepare for that. It is given in the right time. It is just developing the trust in it. So even today, you can start using it today, totally. So then we have some beautiful prayer-like declarations, and I would love to share some of them with you. So it is really like, relax, let this come to you, let it affect you. It is also like a contemplation meditation. I have meat to eat that ye know not of. I have a substance ye not know of. Nothing outside of me can deplete me because I am being continuously filled and refilled from this infinite storehouse within. I have something this world knows nothing of. That which keeps replenishing me continually is replenishing everyone, making everyone independent of what the outside world thinks and does. I have meat, I have substance, and I'm not dependent on person, place, circumstance, or condition. I'm dependent on nothing but the infinite nature of my own being. That's great. I have meat, I have substance, and I'm not dependent on person, place, circumstance, or condition. I'm dependent on nothing but the infinite nature of my own being. And Joel says here, if we can catch a tiny glimpse of this vision, and if for any reason we should wake up tomorrow morning without a single dime to our name, still our breakfast, lunch, rent and everything else necessary would be provided as long as we have received our baptism, as long as the Holy Ghost has descended upon us, giving us the spiritual vision to discern the invisible nature of supply. I have meat, I have substance, and I'm not dependent on any person, place, situation, circumstance, condition. I'm dependent on nothing but the infinite nature of my own being. See, that's a declaration of our freedom. So that's where you can dive in by practicing this and allowing yourself to catch a glimpse and to feel some of the stirring of you from your Holy Spirit. Yes, that's wonderful. That's so lovely. So then he continues. I have meat that to eat that ye not know of. I have an inner presence, an inner power that meets every situation of human experience, whether for myself or another, whether for myself or 5,000 others. It is not anything that I personally possess in the sense that I can withhold it from anybody. It is not anything over which I have the power to say, I can give it to you and withhold it. Nor have I the power to sell it. It is mine only in the sense that I am the particular wire over which it is running at the moment. I am the particular vehicle as which it is expressing, not through which, but as which this infinite thing is appearing. See, and then one more phrase from him. The Father is in me, and I in the Father. I am in the Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. I have an inner strength that never wavers. I have life eternal. I am life eternal. I am the very presence of God, and I am blessing the world through my realization that this is true, not only of me, but of every individual in the world. And whether or not he has awakened to this truth, this is the truth of his being. Once you have attained your Christhood, you will have attained your spiritual freedom. You are then free from every claim of mortality, sin, disease, lack, and limitation. Wow, so this is just another, say, possibility to go within and let this resonate with you. Let this come into you. You know, it's like, oh, thank you, Father. Thank you so much for this what is given, for this that we can receive for ourselves, you know, and really feel the joy being stirred up in you and all the loveliness. Like, so there's a lot that's been given in this, like letting go of your concerns about being dependent on, you know, being dependent on situations, persons, and all of that. But going within and feel that there is your treasure, and having that feed you, having that rejuvenate you. So thank you so much for being here, for participating in this class, for actively using this in your life. So I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.